We are going to start talking about the soft slab technique. I will start the process of cutting out the pieces when the slab is very wet. I just rolled this out, and you will have already seen a video of me rolling out a slab. And then the video will clip and you'll see the next step. So first, we're going to cut out the pieces. So a soft slab is used to have curves, things that flow around. So we do it at a very specific stage of the clay setting up. And you will have already watched my video on the different stages of clay as it sets up through the process. So if you haven't watched that video yet, you need to see that, because I'm going to use terminology of what stage is that, the leather stage or the cheese stage or the chocolate stage. So make sure you see that video and you understand the stages of clay as we do this, because it'll make a lot more sense. And it's super important to be able to do this effectively. So first off, to do our soft slab on our project, we're doing a cylinder that is 4 to 5 inches in diameter and it is 6 inches tall. So I'm going to start by finding a template, and you'll have a lid that I'll provide to you that'll be about 4.5 inches. This is, I think, about 4.25. And then you'll also want to grab one of the angle rulers. This is also called a square, to do the cutting for this project. So I have a circle that is 4.25 inches. So I need to know what the circumference of that circle is in order to start cutting my long slab. So you could do the calculations. You might know those things off the top of your head if you're good at math, or you can talk to the computer that we all carry around in our pocket and ask it. And a 4.25 inch diameter circle needs a 13.4 inch piece to go around the circumference. So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to grab my larger square and use that to make my 13.3 inch piece. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little shy of 13.5 because that's 13.5. And if it's a little long, I can always trim it. If it's too short, I don't have a ton of options once it starts to set up. I can attach more clay, but that's it's more trouble than it's kind of worth. So make sure you give yourself just a little bit extra, and then you can always cut off that when you don't need it anymore. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place my ruler on my slab that I've rolled out, and I'm going to mark off my 13.5, and I'm going to mark off my 6, and then I'm going to hold down the ruler and score, holding my knife, my fettling knife, level, and then go all the way through. But I'm not going to move those pieces, so I still have where my marks are. And again, I'm not using a sharp knife, I'm using a fettling knife. It's sharp enough to cut through the clay, but not to cut the paper on the drywall board. So we don't want to mess up our drywall boards. Go through partway once, make sure it's where you want it, go through all the way again. Now, I'm going to flip this around, and hopefully I don't hit the wall. I might hit the wall. Let's move this over a little bit. So, and I'm going to put my mark for the 13.5 here on this other mark, and I'm going to put my 6 on the mark I made here. And what that does is I know that I have an absolutely square piece of clay because I'm lining up my marks. So it saves a lot of hassle with measuring and trying to figure out exactly if it's right. And score it once, make sure it's where you want it to be. And I've got that cut out. I need to cut out 2 of my circles. So I'm going to go around You want to try to make sure you keep your knife level when you're doing this. It's easy to sort of make your circle a little smaller than you mean to by going holding your knife at an angle. So try to hold that nice and level. I'm just going to go through partially and finish it up without that on there because it's a little bit annoying. I'm going to finish cutting these out. And just make sure you're being careful. It's easy to kind of get off course when you're doing this. So go slow, don't push super hard, and you'll be just fine. Cut all the way through there. Let's see. Now I need a circle for another project. So I'm going to leave this piece of clay intact in case I can use it. But otherwise, I'm going to take all this extra clay and I want to take this away so that all that's left on my board is the pieces that I need, because I can re-wedge all this scrap and not waste it. I can use it to make another slab. So take all that away, and we're going to let your 3 pieces you need for this dry up to kind of a, if you watch the consistency video, we're going for a leather hard consistency. We don't want it to be a hard leather hard or that cheese state where it's going to crack when you bend it. You want it to be like a soft cheese to a leather hard where it's firm enough for you to stand it up, but it's not going to crack. If it cracks at all when you bend it, it's too hard and you'll need to start over. So I want to note that when you are doing any slab work, you need to give yourself enough time for at least for these to de-adhere from the board. When you first do this, they're going to be stuck down, and you don't want to pry the piece up off the board, especially if it needs to be flat. So this piece, because it's going to be curved, you could pick it up if you needed to, because it's going to bend. But like these bottom pieces, and when we do the pieces for the hard slab, It's really important that you don't bend them when you want them to be flat, because the clay has a memory and it will warp in the kiln. So you need to give yourself enough time to roll the slab out, to cut them when they're wet. You'll notice we're cutting all these pieces at the same consistency and letting them dry. That means they're all going to shrink down to the same rate. So it only takes a couple hours usually for these things to get firm enough to move off of the board, and then at that point we move them, we flip them onto a plastic covered board and wrap them up so that they don't get any drier than we need them to. Now we're going to talk about hard slab construction. So hard slab construction is when we use a slab that we've just rolled out. This is soft right now, and I'm going to cut out the pieces now, but I'm going to let it firm up to kind of a hard cheese to almost chocolate state before I put it together, so I know that these pieces are going to stay nice and flat and precise, because we're going to make a cube out of this. And I made sure to not bend the slab when I removed it from the slab roller. Again, you will have seen a video about that. And we want our cube to be 4 by 4 by 4. So that means we need to think about what sizes we need. My slab is 1/4 inch thick. So my top and bottom of my cube can be 4 by 4. But the other 4 sides, we need to account for the thickness of the clay and the way we're going to put it together. So that means I need 4 sides that are 4 by 3.5 and 2 sides that are 4 by 4. So I'm going to start by measuring this out. So I've got a slab that is 10 inches. We should be able to get what we need out of this. Let's go for it and find out. I'm going to make the most out of this. So I'm going to use my square, and I'm going to start with my 2 4 by 4 pieces, and I'm going to say this is 8 inches here, and this is 4 inches here, and then this is 4 inches here. I'm going to make sure my marks are still lined up with the ruler. And then I'm going to turn this around. And we're going to put our 4 right on the 8 mark. We're going to put our 8 right on the 4 mark. And we're going to cut. Again, making sure you hold that knife nice and straight so you're not ending up with a different size on the bottom of the pieces. And we do this all the cutting when it's soft so that everything is exactly the same size when it dries. And I'm lining up the two marks I made at the center to know what is 4 by 4. So I've got the two 4 by 4s. Now I need 4 by 3.5. So we don't quite have 8 there, so we can't do it that way. We've got 7. Well, I think we can do it this way. So if I need 3.5, 7 works. And then I should be able to get 8 this way. So I'm going to line my ruler up. And I'm going to move it up just a touch here. Let's make sure we've got an extra inch here. Okay, so we've got 7. So I'm using this straight edge that I've already made, and I'm going to mark this, mark further up, and I know I need 8 here because I've got 4 and 4. I'm going to make a little mark on the thing I already did. I know where that is. And I need 7, so I need to add an inch to this. You could add another straight edge to this to help yourself out, or just eyeball it a little bit. So this is 6, and I'm going to mark out another inch here, which is right at the end. Make a mark right there. And I also need 3.5, so 3.5 is right there. So now I'm going to turn my ruler around, and I'm going to have to switch to my big square that I was using before on the other one. And I'm going to say 7 inches here and 8 inches here. Line them up to my mark so I know I'm perfectly square. And cutting. And then this is going to be 3.5. So 3.5. And this is going to be 4. So now I can cut I'm going to go back to my small ruler so it's easier to use. I can cut my pieces. Alright, I believe, oh, this bottom isn't cut through, so I need to make sure I cut through the bottom. Alright, so now I've got my top and bottom, which are 4 by 4, and I've got my 4 sides, which are 4 by 3.5. And I'm going to remove all the excess so I can re-wedge it and use it for another project.